So you couldn't make it to 3D Experience World, huh? And you missed Model Mania Extreme? Well, let me tell you what. You missed some of this. And some of this.
I promised if I ever met you, I would Control-Alt-Delete you.
And even more of this.
Oh, let's get ready to model!
But don't worry, Model Mania Extreme will be back at 3D Experience World next year. So book your tickets now so you can get in the ring with me in 2026.
Great job, Marauder. Awesome round. Let's get you toweled off and ready for next year. And let's bring a couple other people in here to talk about this awesome build. Of course, I'm joined by Chin Liu from Our Next Make, as well as our good friend John from SOLIDWORKS. Well, I know everyone's excited to hear about how this build came together, but let's talk a minute about where the idea even came from.
Sure. So Model Mania Extreme was a super fun project where users and experts all got to jump into the ring and show off their modeling skills, see who was the faster designer, and if they won, they'd be able to show off the championship belts. And this all started from an idea Jason Poole and I had last year when we were working the traditional Model Mania booth, and Jason just wanted something with a little bit more energy, a little bit more hype.
We've got our winner, Surface Slayer!
As you know, Jason designs the championship belts for the WWE, so one thing led to another, and here we are.
So you guys had to figure out how to bring this to life, and there were a lot of factors to think about, right?
Ton of factors.
So what about, let's talk about space. A normal ring is massive, and we couldn't build it that big, because in addition to how much space we had at the conference, we had to deal with things like
how we would transport the stage to that location.
Disassembling it all into pieces, shipping it, putting it together.
Yeah, we knew that it was so heavy. Well, with all this wood, we would have to be able to stack it up, put it on a pallet. So being able to fit into that footprint was also another challenge.
So, you know, we had a big brainstorming session to talk about all these things, right? And then you jumped into CAD to start getting ideas into 3D.
Yeah, so I jumped into XDesign and started modeling the whole thing based on what we talked about. Well, of course, the first thing was the footprint. And that was another consideration that we kind of went back and forth on, and we landed on 8 feet by 8 feet.
Yeah, we wanted to make sure that there's room for the contestants to move around, the two of them. And if we wanted a third person, we could. That was also a requirement.
Yeah, to have an announcer in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I remember a conversation where people were like, how high off the ground should this be? And we went everywhere from it should just be 4 posts on the ground to 30 inches off the ground and everywhere in between.
I just wanted to actually have that drama of stepping into the ring.
Yeah, so I think we came to a good compromise at, you know, a 2x6.
Yeah, that's perfect. A little bit of elevation.
Yeah. So once we settled on this, you know, 2x6 height, it was really just a matter of cutting things to length and building the pieces. And because we needed to ship it on a pallet, we broke it into 5 pieces, a big square in the middle, and then 4 corners, and which made it actually really good because we could cut all the pieces to length and assemble it and kind of get better at assembling it as we went.
Well, I loved how much we clamped everything.
Yeah.
But there was one part of it that you had to get a little creative so that we could get the post holes to actually fit into in that 4x4 block that was at the corner.
Oh, you mean trying to drill a hole deeper than we could actually drill?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the throw on that was only like, you know, a couple inches, and we milked it for everything we could. And then I think we flipped it over and hoped to God that we would line it up on the other side, and magically we did.
Yeah, that's a typical thing, right? We're working with tools that are maybe not optimized for what you guys are trying to do, but as makers, you improvise.
Yeah, you get it done.
The work.
And then you jumped on a little bit. We saw there was a little bit of a sag because we went like 24-inch on center. Tried to make it lightweight, but then we said, well, there's going to be some big people jumping up and down and getting excited on this.
It was also where the traffic pattern was going to be. That was exactly where people would walk just because of how things were set up.
Yeah.
So it was actually important to reinforce that.
Yeah. So we did that. Couple more 2x6s took care of that. And then we had to wrap this thing to make it look.
Yeah. And it gets some flooring, which if it looks familiar, you've probably seen it in your local gym.
Yeah. So we used carpet tape that you can get at a home center to hold the rubber flooring to the plywood structure. I was proud at how, you know, it has a little stretch, so we took our time and got that, you know, nicely lined up. Of course, over time, it starts to like shrink or what, I don't know what. So the corners are seeing some wear, but it still works. I thought the best part of it all though was in the absence of the J-roller that you should use to put even pressure on these things. I couldn't find mine and we were just too lazy to buy another one. We got credit with our feet. Did a little
With our shoes on,
little dance.
did a dance.
It was probably my most favorite part of the entire build.
Cleaned it up with a couple knives.
Yeah.
And the last thing were just the latches, I think, when it comes to the floor.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's plenty of latches like that available online just to lock everything together. Those worked perfectly because they were adjustable.
Yeah, it makes putting the ring together, and disassembling it so quick. And then the other thing you mentioned was the desk, right? The desk, we have contestants at Chimney's height, 5 foot whatever, and John 6 foot whatever, and everywhere in between. So, we struggled for a minute about should we build the desk adjustable? Should we build a little box for people to stand on?
The step stool idea was a fun one.
Yeah.
We almost forgot about the channels that we had to account for when we built the whole frame. That was a big consideration for both the platform and the desk, like every single piece.
That's right, and yeah.
Power, Ethernet, and HDMI, so we could show people.
Yeah, so we cut these little sort of mouse holes in the frame so that we can chase the wires through, and then, as you said, all the different pathways had to get that sort of cut out so we can chase the wires. So there were a couple shapes that you came up with. Obviously the ring is a square, but I don't remember how and when we decided to chamfer those corners, maybe because we didn't want to knock people's shins or whatever. And did that influence the other shapes, or was it the other way around?
I think it was the other way around because we wanted to have a flat face on the edge of the post that we could put a logo on. So naturally, we thought it would look a little bit better if we also had like a matching flat face at the edge of the ring. So that's why we chamfered the corners of those.
Well, I like that you also lofted it. It went from a small base to a nice, like slightly bigger base to flare out and kind of lift the whole thing, making it feel like it was taller, which is kind of echoed on the standing desk, which has that flare up. And I think in all of that context, it made it much more dynamic instead of just this really static box on the ground. So that was a really cool design decision.
You used your CNC router to cut the 3 main pieces that you can see from the outside, but we had a little bit of an internal structure for the wires to kind of come through.
Yep, that extra structure to hide the wires actually also became the post that tied it into the floor. So those things ran extra long, they went down and through holes that we cut in the floor, and then we could screw them into place. I think the other nice detail that you guys came up with, and I was resistant to at first, was air holes or cooling openings for the laptops. And I'm like, you don't need that, laptops are fine. But it came out really well, and I love that you kind of echoed that same sort of trapezoid shape. So it was a really nice touch.
I think one of your biggest pushback is, how do we paint all those little holes inside of the holes?
Yeah, because
Was that hard?
Oh, it was awful. I wasn't wrong. So
What was worth
in
it?
fact, painting the desk ended up being my nemesis. I learned something though, which I guess is a good thing. We always go to acrylic paint when we're like, it's got to be done fast and it dries quickly, and acrylic paint is great in that regard. But when you're trying to paint such a large surface, by the time you get across the other side, it's all dried over there and your brush strokes are just visible everywhere.
Yeah, to kind of clarify for those people who are new to paint, working with paint, is that acrylic paint was designed to go on canvases or non-porous surfaces. Whereas in our case, we're applying it onto a very thirsty piece of plywood. Or it's just sucking all the moisture and just leaving whatever texture was left by the brush. So yes, watering it down was definitely the right way to approach it.
Yeah, but that's something I'll take with me forever. Like if I ever want to do a big project like this, the idea of watering down an acrylic paint is awesome. Just it's like a wash, and it covers quickly. There's no brush marks, and then you can go on with multiple coats and then sort of build up the richness.
Yeah, I'm glad we were able to do that, and it was worth the extra effort.
Well, I was going to say,
Everything out of foam.
yeah, getting that shape on the table was easy breezy, right? Because that's CNC and
It's two-dimensional.
yeah, but
Post was three.
we were cursing you a little bit when it was post fabrication time.
To figure out how to cut those lines from one angle to another and tilting at the same time, which is that Japanese saw really was you really just guiding it and just having a very slow motion. Actually, the more gentle you're with it, the more accurate you could be. So that benefited me. Whereas you guys were just like, let me just get it down
Fast as
as
possible.
quickly as possible, like leaning into it, which I think was one of the issues where once you get off track, it just gets off track really far.
Right.
Versus if you get off track just a little bit, you can still continue to adjust.
Yeah, but I have to say, this is probably the first time we've ever had to take raw material, glue it together, cut it to shape, take it into, separate it into pieces, and then do some more shaping, and then glue it all back together. It was a lot of back and forth to get from raw material to finished product. Yeah.
So what do? We started with just the raw foam that we glued together,
Yeah.
and we weighted the heck out of that thing.
Yes. We got a little creative with our weighting
Yes.
while the glue dried.
Yes.
And glue takes a while to cure when it's between two sheets of foam. There's no air that really gets in, so it takes much longer for that to set up. So I think we let that set for several days.
Yeah.
So after we glued that together, that's when we did the trying to shape it into your sort of tapered hexagon, irregular hexagons. And you guys actually did a quick laser cut template, right? Because instead of trying to hand draw that, we had the CAD. You laser cut it and use that to trace out the shape.
The corners, right? That really helped.
And then we had the raw shape of everything in foam, but then we still had to get ropes to go through it.
Yeah. And a post.
And a post.
Yeah. So we had to destroy our creation, right? So we sliced it down the middle. Table saw first, I ripped some beveled cuts so that we could actually make a square hole for that post. Then we chopped it out into 4 different segments. And then you, again, the master of patience, you went through and took Gian's 3D prints and carved out recesses for that.
I traced the outline of these, we call them little French horns. That's what they look like, little French horns. I found a technique.
Yes.
So it was very much a combination of utility knife kind of scoring all the pieces to the right depth, and then like a nice sharp chisel just popping the little pieces out. And it worked out. Again, it's inside, so it didn't have to be pretty, but it definitely worked.
And you designed those 3D prints to adjust to navigate the bungee cord around the sides.
So that rope could feed right through. And then you guys glued everything together with the post and the 3D printed parts before the pleather.
Yeah.
Did you have to clamp that too? Like how did you clamp all this?
You painter's tape. It's your best friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tape's a great clamp.
Yes, especially with lightweight material like foam, it really does hold up really well.
Yeah.
And after that was when we decided to dress it up. So at this point, we had decided we would take the pleather to give it a nice like trim look. We wanted to make sure that the seams between the different panels were beautiful. And ideally, you can sew all this together just like you would any kind of fabric upholstery, but pleather is notorious for ripping. When you sew everything together, it's perforated piece of plastic that, you just have to pull it hard enough, it just all comes apart. And contact cement was the thing that allowed us to apply it, let it sit for 15 minutes, and then once it's shiny and tacky, you kind of push it together and just press it. So I had this genius idea of using a rubber mallet.
I invented that idea.
Smack it.
No, I didn't.
We really had a much bigger gap than I had expected. I was hoping to just get some Velcro to just wrap them all together, but that didn't work. And we came up with this idea of lacing, like we've seen in like boxing.
Yeah, it's old school. I love it.
Yeah, it's old school, and it gave it that nod to a boxing ring. So we got some grommets and just applied it all along the edge of the 2 sides. And I had some help actually from Max. And we were just feeding it through just like you would lacing a shoe. And it looked great.
Yeah.
The other 3D printed grommets for the ropes or the bungees to pass through. So mainly to protect that hole and then also ease the entrance.
It is worth mentioning that Senkan-sen did sponsor the build of the booth, but they're not sponsoring this video. But nonetheless, We love them. They're a great business. They do great stuff. So check them out.
Thank you, Send.
The last thing were the decals.
Yeah, and all of the details.
Oh, that's the thing you don't ever want to do again. Vinyl is awesome and fun when it's this big, you know?
Yes.
But
when
this big, it takes some extra special.
Is it because you had multiple pieces that you had to fit together?
You had this design where you wanted 3 different colors. So the right thing to do was to build them up as layers. So we had white, which is the overall base. We had red, which would be like the extreme, and then blue, which would give you the monomania. And it also had a border. And if you wanted to properly align everything, you would make sure that in your design, you would have registration marks. So as you lay each one down, you're positioning those marks so that everything else would fall in place.
So on these bungee cords,
Yeah, that was the last big detail, putting it all together.
yeah, they didn't hold them, we had to figure out how to hold the ends together.
And make it invisible.
Yes.
And, well, it's still kind of visible.
But it's nice.
Yes.
It's not ugly knots with
Yeah.
them.
Yeah,
Very
so,
classy.
yeah, so we actually, we started with, or one of the ideas was, let's just permanently fuse the 2 ends together, heat it up and fuse them together, and then like pull that fuse thing into the corner so it was hidden.
Yeah.
But of course that would mean all the posts were sort of a group. And we kind of said at one point, that could be okay, you know, we disassemble it, we bundle them together. But we said it would be better that you take it all apart. And so we then had to figure out how to hold it together. And the square knot is the way to go.
Thank you so much, Sal and Chinlu, for making this possible. I had so much fun with you both and learned a ton along the way. We're gonna make it even bigger and better next year. And if you want to step into the ring yourself and show off your modeling skills, you'll have to join us at 3D Experience World 2026 in Houston, Texas.
Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you.
Wait,
What?
we just got a video from the surface layer.
I just got a few words to say. Chinlu, Sal, you did an amazing job on the subdivisional ring of justice that I dominated my opponents in. Because there's only one champ here, and it's this guy right here. That's right. Listen up. I will be going to Houston, Texas in 2026 for Model Mania Extreme. Any one of you critters out there wanna dance and go toe to toe in the ring of MMX? All I gotta say is bring it and get some.
We've got a winner. It's the Surface Slayer!
I can model anything in this there world.
He can model anything.